Hey, health students. Back for another installment here of distance learning during the time of COVID-19. And we are just going to talk here briefly. I'll give you an overview of Chapter 24. As you can see in red here, we're still in the communicable diseases topic, but moving into specifically for the next 4 chapters, talking about sexually transmitted diseases, as well as HIV and AIDS. So Chapter 24 just presents the symptoms, the diagnoses, and the treatments for common STDs, including HIV and AIDS. So a couple things that you're going to learn throughout the course here. Just learn that STDs are considered communicable infections. They're spread through sexual contact. You're also going to learn that all STDs can be prevented and most can be treated, but some are incurable. HIV, you're going to learn that HIV is a virus that causes AIDS, a disease that weakens the immune system. And you're going to learn that HIV and AIDS can be prevented and treated. And right now, still not necessarily considered curable, but they have gotten to certain levels of treatment when people are in the HIV phase, where they can, for the most part, with antiviral drugs, can continue to keep people in the phase of HIV so that it doesn't progress to AIDS. So there's been some pretty good advancements in medicine as far as antiviral drugs that can suppress the virus so that it doesn't progress and get to that deadly phase of AIDS. Still not curable, but for the most part can suppress it for quite some period of time. Lesson 1 is just going to be talking about STDs. STDs are talking about STDs and how they're highly communicable infections. Common STDs may be present in symptoms, and they may have no symptoms. All have possible long-term effects if not treated. So that in that particular lesson, we talk about, there are some types of STDs that are out there that are going to present obvious symptoms that an infected person has it, and some will have no symptoms and can be continued to, or otherwise used, another term otherwise used as asymptomatic. People can continue to infect other people not knowing that they have it. So all possible long-term effects, all could have, if infected and not knowing that you're infected and not treated, any of these STDs can have an effect on somebody's health in a negative fashion. Lesson 2, STDs can be diagnosed and treated, and most can be cured. Infected persons are responsible for notifying people that they've been in contact with sexually. So we'll get into a little bit of that as to if somebody's been infected and they know they've been infected and they've been in sexual contact with somebody else, that it's that infected person's responsibility to let them know that they tested positive for something. Practicing abstinence is the best way to avoid high-risk behavior. We'll talk a little bit during this lesson about other preventative measures, but of course best practice in talking about this is the only version of 100% protection, which is abstinence. We'll talk a little bit about barrier protection, not getting too deeply into those types of things. We have to be kind of careful when we talk in different areas like that. We'll talk a little bit about preventative. And then lesson 3, we'll talk about HIV and AIDS. It is an incurable disease that attacks the immune system. Infection can be provided by practicing behaviors that reduce the risks. So again, a lot of the same things that we'll be talking about with protecting ourselves from infecting from other STDs, we'll be utilizing some of that same information we talk about HIV. We'll also talk about how when HIV gets into that level of AIDS, how that really affects the immune system, and people are really prone to other infections that can become deadly to them if they have progressed to the level of AIDS. And then lesson 4, HIV and AIDS is diagnosed through antibody tests. Treatment can slow down the process, but not cure the disease just yet. Early diagnosis is essential to prevent the spread of the disease and prolong life throughout the treatment. They say prolong life in this because, it's just been within the last year or so. They've come up with some really good antiviral drugs to suppress that virus so that it doesn't progress to AIDS. So they really, with HIV, people have talked about, well, this is ultimately going to kill people as long as people are in the phase of HIV and they are on the right treatments. It's proven now, excuse me, that people can live quite a long life if on the right treatments as far as keeping that HIV suppressed. Videos that you'll watch during this particular chapter, you'll have this one that you're watching right now. That's the Larson lecture, chapter 24 overview. A couple of these other videos that I really like you to watch, I don't put in optional in there just because I feel like you should watch these. They're pretty good videos. One of them is what it is, be smart and well. The next one is overview, be smart and well. A couple of good videos that talk about different types of sexually transmitted diseases. We'll skip over chapter 24.1. You still will be responsible to look through that and do the assignment on your own, but I won't do a Larson lecture on that one. I do want to do a Larson lecture on 24.2, so I'll have one of those in there for you. And then on that same day, you'll watch STD signs and symptoms, testing and treating sexually transmitted diseases. You'll see that one. You have an optional video of 5 rules for the rest of your life. That's an optional video. It's kind of a motivational one. And then the Larson lecture for chapter 24.4. I may or may not do that one as a Larson lecture. I just put it on there just in case I decide to. Check-in assignments for this chapter. So this chapter will be a 4-day chapter. Chapter 24.1 will be a quiz. 24.2 will have some lecture notes worksheets that are there, and then there'll be a discussion, a journal discussion for chapter 24.3, and then finally vocabulary for the entire chapter on the day that we do chapter 24.4. So again, lots of information that is here, information that, to be honest with you, I wish that we were here to talk about. That's not my favorite way to have this very important discussion and conversation. Typically during the STD unit, I have a project that you guys work on together, which is a group project. It's just not feasible to do this during the time of distance learning. That's one of the things, unfortunately, I had to cut out because but that research that students do during that time frame, we really have some things that I would have expected people to put in their presentations. You were going to do presentations. I was going to assign you a disease to research in your group. The 4 or 5 of you were going to put together a PowerPoint presentation, and you were going to present that to the class, and there were some things that needed to be in that presentation. It would have been, what is the disease? What are the symptoms? How does a person become infected? Are there ways to protect from it? So that's where we will have done some research, learning how to use preventative measures. And then we talk about whether it was curable or not curable, and then any other information that seemed interesting. So this would have been a really, really good project. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get to that, so I'm going to have to talk about a lot of those things through 2 of the different lessons that I'm going to do some lectures for. So we'll get into briefly into a couple of things that you would have naturally done going through some of these presentations. But really sorry that we didn't get an opportunity to learn this in a normal classroom setting. So I hope everybody's having a great day. Hope everybody's staying safe and healthy. And we'll talk to you again soon.